Well, hello there. So you want to know how to fade. I feel like I'm an expert in this as I have done it 3 different times in my life. Um, Back and forth, I was disfellowshipped when I was 16 and then back and forth in and out of the organization a few different times. And I've had experience with fading, and I just wanted to talk about it here and give you a really complete guide, like a step by step. There's 4 different steps, I would say, and I'm also going to give you a little bit of like a bonus steps at the end if you'd like to stick around for that. But I'm assuming that you are in the organization. You're probably PMO, which is physically in, mentally out. Maybe you're going to the Kingdom Hall and you're stuck in right now because you have family that's in. And if that's the case, this video is for you. So I made this for you because I really, my name is Elle. I'll just tell you, my name is Elle. I'm a life coach for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm really passionate about us as ex-witnesses living our lives to the fullest that we can live it, and not being smushed down by the organization, not reaching our highest potential because of what this religion has done to us. And so if you're ready to fade, I've got some steps for you. So I hope that you'll stick around till the end. Those are going to be really fun. But understanding your decision fully. This is so important. Understanding it fully. So, if you are physically in, mentally out, do you have a wake up date? A date that it was like things kind of click for you, like the light came on where it's like, wow, what's going on here? I don't know if this is actually the truth. It'd be kind of cool to keep a note of that somewhere, even mentally, just keep a note. Throughout this whole process, I really recommend keeping a journal of your thoughts. And if you're not able to keep an actual paper journal because you're afraid of somebody finding it, you can always use your notes on your phone. I don't know if you have notes. I do on my Apple iPhone. And you could also use like voice memos. And I know that there's also apps that you can get that are password protected. In fact, notes on your phone in Apple, you can protect those with a password as well. And I think it's just really important to keep a note of, what's happened, what's gone on, and so you can reflect back. Let's say in a year you can look back and say, oh, I woke up on this date and this is how I was feeling, and then all these things happened, and you can really see your growth and how far you've come. But if you don't have a record of it, it's really hard to really acknowledge all of your growth. And so I really recommend a journal. So if you have that wake up date, I would write it down. So I've just, I made this video because I really want us to explore all the options available to you when it comes to fading. And the first thing I would say, this is the foundation, and this is going to sound so basic and simple. And, we'll get into some deeper things, but the basic simple thing is like really educate yourself. Like take the time to do a little bit of digging around and a little bit of research, and find out, not find out, but really go deeper on the things. So if you're already feeling like this isn't the truth for you, this isn't right for you, then you're going to want to keep on proving it to yourself that it's either true or it's not true, because you're going to want to know without a shadow of a doubt. When you fade, you are going to want to know that this was the right decision. You don't want to be kind of wishy-washy once you've already faded and, go in and out, because that's what I did. And that's why I'm telling you that I went in and out because I never really proved it to myself. I'm 50 now. Well, I'm almost 50, and I was disfellowshipped when I was 16, and I went in and out in my 20s and into my 30s even, and into my 40s. So I have gone back and forth because I never did the deeper research. I never dug around and read the book Crisis of Conscience. And let me tell you, if you're feeling really, what do you call it? Like intimidated by this great big humongous book. I don't know if it's like 600 pages long, but for me, I've only probably read this much of it, and that was enough for me. So don't think that if you buy that book that you have to read the whole thing. I don't think you have to read it, but if you're having doubts or questions, I would say go to, dig into it, read that book, Crisis of Conscience, research these doctrines. There's a lot of good channels. When I was waking up, I watched Lloyd Evans. I thought his channel was so great for digging into the doctrine. Also, I have a new friend here on YouTube. His name is Colin. He's the CO Visit, and he just discussed the 607 BCE doctrine, and he did a really short little, I think it's like 10-minute long video that just really sums it all up. So watching things like that to really make it concrete that you're not going to waver back and forth, that it's going to be very clear that, yeah, this is what I want to do. You want to be really, really clear. So is the reason you want to leave, is it because of your change in your beliefs? Is it because you want freedom? Is it for your own personal growth? Like really having that, clarifying that reason of why you want to leave is so important. So, yeah, and a way to really do this, to really get clear on it, is this was one of the best questions that my coach ever asked me, and it's so simple. She said, "What are your values?" And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean, my values?" Because before, right, for the longest time, it was just going out in service. It's Jehovah. It's my appearance. So appearance, Jehovah, service, those were pretty much my top values, I think. The way we appeared was so much more important than what we really believed on the inside. If we looked a certain way, nobody was really going to give us a hard time. And appearance also meaning like, not celebrating birthdays, not doing things that were in the world, worldly things, right? Our appearance could also be the way we dressed, the way we kept our house, or, just all of those types of things, right? And then going out in service, and that was really important. And then Jehovah, meaning not God, right? Just Jehovah. That was important. Jehovah meaning the whole organization. That was what Jehovah meant to me. So now when we're outside and we're thinking about it, what are your top 3 personal values, like you? And I think this is really important as you wake up, to really find yourself and see what you're all about, because for the longest reason we were just told, this is your value, Jehovah, go out in service and look a certain way, and that is what your values are. We never had a chance to decide what those were. And so now just really think about that. What are they? Is it independence? Is it freedom? For me, my top value is love. And I just love love. I love love so much. And also there's an example, of lots and lots of love in the Bible. We were taught love, so we know love. How about, integrity? For me, that's one of my highest personal values, and also vulnerability. And just know that these top three that you pick, you can have tons of values, you can have as many as you want. But if we really look at those top 3 core values, it will make everything so much easier, I promise you. Because what happens is every time that you have a question about something, you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure if this seems right. For me, I would just check in. Does this feel like love? Since love is my top value. Does this feel like love? Is this how love would act? Is this what love would say? And then when I check in like that, it's really clear of, as to what I want to do. And then if I'm thinking, is this integrity? Does this show integrity? Does this feel like integrity? Does this feel like vulnerability? Does this feel like, is this saying things that are vulnerable? And the reason I love vulnerability is because of the platform and because of the nature of the work that I do. I really want to be vulnerable and really show up as an example so that people can see that there's actually so much strength in vulnerability. And, you know, on my channel, I really do promote people to really tell their story and to really get it out there. But I also know that that's not the easiest thing, because we are put in this situation where it's not always easy to tell your story. But for me, um, there's no reason why I can't tell my story. And so I do. And I just try to be an example of that with vulnerability. But when you have your three top values, then you're going to know, okay, is this freedom? Is this independence? Does this feel like love? You know, whatever the top three are, it's going to make your life so much easier. So when you're thinking of values, it's kind of like, what do you stand for? What makes you really light up and get really excited? Is it people? Is it sports? I don't know what it would be. Is it still God? It could still be God for you. You know, what are the things that really get you going? Is it your family? Is it community? You know, yeah, I guess sports and community kind of go together, but really thinking about that, and then just knowing that you can decide your top three values, and then you can change your mind at any time. In fact, mine have, if you see on my website, I have my top three values, and every now and then I'll go in there and I'll kind of like, you know, change things around a little bit, or, you know, just give a little, you know, we change over time. Like, we don't have to settle on anything and have that be like our truth. We can decide that we're going to do it a different way. So, what do you care really deeply about? What is the thing that is really so important to you? If you're a mom, maybe it's your kids. Like, your kids are so important to you. Um, yeah, is it your time? Time is so important. For me, that's always been a big one with like health and longevity. For a long time was one of my very top values, and it still is. Longevity, just thinking about, okay, we only have this much time left in our life, and I want to live it the best that I can. So longevity is important to me. um but yeah, I think that this is a really wonderful thing to do. And if you still don't know your values, if you're still kind of confused about it, I would really recommend that you start dating yourself, taking yourself on dates, just you. And this is something that I learned from the book called The Artist's Way, but taking yourself out and doing things that you want to do. So maybe you can take yourself roller skating. You can take yourself. Today I went to the bookstore and got a coffee and a cookie, and I just kind of like browsed around and looked through things, and that was really wonderful. I went there after church today, and that was so nice. But that was my date. And so, you know, then I get clear on really what is it that I want to do and what is important to me. And I recommend that you do the same thing. And I think that you'll find out a lot about yourself, because as ex-witnesses, we were just told who we were, and now we get to find out who we actually are, which is so fun. So that's my first step to fading, is really knowing your decision fully. Like, why are you doing it? Having that really strong why. Why are you doing it? What are your values? And doing a little bit of research so you can make sure that this is going to be like your solid foundation of new beliefs. And I'm going to take you into step two. After you've laid your foundation of why you're doing this, and knowing your decision fully, like, really, this is definitely what I want to do. The next step would be protecting yourself. So protecting yourself financially and emotionally. So with emotionally, you want to build up your support network, which is a really difficult thing to do if you're still inside of the organization, but it's so necessary. I know that there's not much time, because the witnesses really teach you, do more for the organization, do this, do that, do this, like all of these things. But we really need to build up an outside support system so that when you leave, that you're going to have a few key people. You don't need a whole congregation of people, but you do need a few really good ones. So I would recommend getting a therapist that specializes in religious trauma. A therapist, a coach. I'm a coach. I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness and a coach. So it could be me that's your coach. It could be, there's so many other witnesses out there that have actually turned life coach to life coaching. And so reaching out to those people, yeah, you can always reach out to me. And if I'm not your person, I could help you find somebody that would work with you. Also support groups. There is group therapy. There is group coaching programs. I have a group coaching program. It is for, I have a group coaching program for women. So it's all ex-Jehovah's Witness women. I've also been part of a group therapy program, learning about dialectical behavior therapy, which was really transformational for me. There's also other groups, support groups all over the place that you can just look up local groups in your area, and either you can go to an in-person thing, or a lot of times you can do them online. So that's a really great option. And you want to have people around you that are really going to understand you and support you. So because all of your family and friends are probably in the religion, you need to start building this up on the outside. And there may not be a lot of people to talk to, which can make it really frustrating. But if you build up this little network on the side, and even if it's just a few key people that will understand you, then that's going to be a really wonderful thing, because you can have friends that are worldly and they could listen to you, but they're not going to understand. They're not going to get it fully. And it might seem frustrating to you. It might seem even a little bit frustrating to them. So I would recommend getting somebody professional. And then also, I mean, as many of these things, right? So you could also join ex-Jehovah's Witness groups. There's groups on Facebook. I have one. It's called I Just Want to Heal and Move On. That's one of the groups that's free on Facebook. And then there's the other group that I have called The Best Half, which is all women. And that's a coaching program where I teach you how to coach yourself. And so having all of those are so good. And inside of these groups, for me, the way it's helped me is I have actually met two women that are older than me that have turned into my moms. I have asked them, would you be my mom? They're like, yes. And it's so nice because I trust them, and I know that if I'm going through something, that they're going to be there for me. And I also have met a few other friends that are coaches, and I can call them and ask them. But I had to ask, and that's what I would urge you to do, is to keep asking, just like the scriptures say, keep on knocking, keep on asking. You can still do that and ask people, and the more that you're in these groups and the more you get to know people, it's going to be really obvious to you, oh, I'm so connected to that person, or, oh, I really like that person. And you're just going to have you're just going to know that is somebody that you want to keep in your life. And so you can always ask them. And I think people are really honored, oh, of course, they're so happy to help you. And it's a beautiful thing. There's tons of people out there. I even have a few that are they're like my kids, I have I have a few different clients that are as old as my oldest kids. And so that's really cool too. But yes, just having those people in your life are really important. Have that support group. And the other support is the financial independence part of it. So maybe you're working for a witness. That could be, maybe it's a family business. You could be working with them, and maybe your living situation is with another witness. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your mom or dad. It could be family. So that makes it a little bit tricky. And you want to make sure that you have yourself set up financially, that when you're ready to fade, that you are going to be fine. And so what you're going to want to do is find your number. What number is it? How much money do you need to reach that goal? Because what happens is if you're working so hard and you're really not sure, what exactly it is, like what your number is exactly, it's going to be probably frustrating. You might hit burnout if you go too hard on your goal and without knowing the end goal, right? And so online, you can even look this up. It's called there's this movement. It's called the FIRE movement, but they describe this as your FU number, like FU, I'm out of here. And we're talking about with a job, but you could also use that information and use it for leaving the religion. And how much money would you need? I think it's a really good thing to sit down, do the math, and then that way you can count back. Okay, so how much money, if I wanted to leave in a year, how much would I need? Okay, now how much per quarter? Okay, how much per month? And then and you have your goal of how much you need to save to be able to leave. And so yeah, exploring that would be great. Maybe it's going to take you moving out. Maybe you're going to have to look for a different job. All sorts of different financial situations, all of the little bills, how are you going to pay for those? Do you have a car? Calculate all of that in. And so you can really have a good idea of what that number is. And then that way you can work towards it. Step number 3, we got to decide how to leave. So, so we're not talking about really disfellowshipping or disassociating. We're talking about like a fade, like you were here one day and kind of like ghosting, like you're here and now you're gone. So for the people that are fading, it could also be, there's a couple different ways, but it can be seen as, going inactive. When somebody goes inactive, it's like you've seen it before. They slowly cut down on going out in service. It seems like, less meetings, less comments, less interaction. That's, being inactive and fading, it's just sort of like you're going down that path of just kind of disappearing. And so it's a really great way to try to preserve your relationship with your family. The times that I have done it, I've done like a fade when I was, that was how many years ago? 5 years ago. It was during COVID. COVID was like the perfect time to fade. And even though it's not COVID, but you can still use some of those same tactics or the same way of, doing less and less and less, going to meetings online and just showing up in service less. And eventually just, then you get your money together and then it's like, oh, where did they go? So that's one way to do it. When I faded that last time, I started erasing myself off of social media. So because I didn't want to like start deleting people and have people getting suspicious. So I just started like less and less and less on social media, and then eventually just got down to and then I just ended up deleting people. But then it was kind of slowly like, oh, like where did she go? That was a really great way to do it. So like the quiet sort of fading. And then another way that I've done it in the past is I have moved all the way to a different state. Moved all the way from did I move from Washington to California one time. Another time I moved from Western Washington to Eastern Washington, from Eastern Washington to Western Washington, and people are like, oh, where'd she go? I don't know. Yeah. And so that's a really great way to fade. And also it was great for my mom that was really in, and she was very hardcore about it. She didn't really know, because I say, oh yeah, I'm going to the meetings, and and then she didn't really know what was going on, and I wasn't really going to the meetings. And then she would say things like, do you still love Jehovah? Yes, I do, because remember, we have to separate Jehovah away from the organization. So there's the organization, there's God. And they like to say, Jehovah is the actual organization. Do you still love Jehovah? Meaning, do you love the organization? Anyway, I've done that before. When you move like that, when you just pick up and go, and let's say you delete your social media and you just are just nobody can find you, then you can eventually start erasing numbers, erasing yourself off of emails and things like that, where they're not gonna mess with you anymore. And if it's your family, that's a really great way to fade, because they can't really, check up on you. They're just gonna have to take your word for it. So yeah, you could think to yourself, like, how could that be really perfect for you? If you were to move away, how would that be so perfect? Yeah, it might be just right for you. And then, of course, you could disassociate yourself and just make a complete break, or you could get disfellowshipped. But we're talking about fading. So the two best ways that I've seen is the two that I just described, like going inactive to like zero, or just totally moving away. Step number 4, we're to the end. We're going to have to prepare for our family's reaction. Now, you know your family better than me, so you know exactly what they're going to say. And they might feel scared, they might feel angry. They're going to make this thing that you're doing mean something about them. And that's the way people always are. It's just in their human nature to really take it very personally. But what we have to remember is to not take their reaction personally towards us. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just standing up for what's right for us. So you already know what your family's going to say, probably. And so if you can write down in your journal, because you've been journaling, right? You're going to write down these 5 reactions that they're going to have. And then for those 5 reactions that they're going to have, you're going to write down your response. And maybe you're going to want to write down a couple of responses. Oh, this means that that you don't love Jehovah. Oh, well, what else would they say? Oh my gosh, so many things. It's like, it's always a guilt, shame, and fear tactic. Oh, you're going to die at Armageddon. You want to write a response. And so in order to write this response, you're also going to need to maybe do your own research on, is that true? Are you going to die at Armageddon? I don't think so. In fact, I'm going to do a video on that one very soon, because I've had people ask me about that and they said it might be a good video topic. But just know that the way that they're feeling about you has nothing to do with you. This has to do with what they're taught from their religion. And so this is their own feelings for them to process. But as long as you know what your family might say, or your friends might say, then you can already have a response. And maybe your response is actually no response at all. That's actually a response too. Or it could just be a simple no. That could be a response too. When we make these boundaries, so we're going to have boundaries with our family and our friends, and maybe the boundary is like, you just take off and there's the boundary, and like it's kind of just done, and that's the boundary. But when we make boundaries with people, what we're going to have to do if we're still going to have contact with family and friends is we're going to have to tell them this is what a boundary is. If you do this, I will do this. That's a boundary. And we can make those boundaries out of love, not only for ourselves, but for them too. Sometimes people think, we might think the boundaries, oh, it's so harsh, it's so harsh. But really what it is, the Jehovah's Witnesses say that if they disfellowship you, that's their boundary. That's not a boundary, because what a boundary is if you do this, I will do this, and I still love you. So it could be, I don't want to talk about religion, that could be a boundary. I'm not sure how that would be, with you fading and everything, but it could come to that point where it's like, I just don't want to talk about this, maybe I'm going through something, maybe I'm feeling depressed and anxious, because that is how it is. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are depressed, they are anxious, and so that could be, and it could just be like, I don't want to talk about religion. And that could be your boundary. And if you talk about religion, I will leave. If you talk about religion, I'll leave and I'll see you next time. But I just don't want to talk about it. But the thing is, whatever your thing is that you're going to do, you're going to have to remember that you're going to have to follow through on it. So it can't be like, if you talk about religion, I never want to talk to you again in my life. That's what they will say, right? And then that's manipulation. And it's just not coming from love at all. That's coming from like twisting your arm and like, oh, you have to do this thing. We can set boundaries out of love and also love for ourselves, right? So knowing what's best for us is a really good way to go into it. And yeah, and just loving them, like telling the truth, mostly the truth of like, I just don't want to talk about religion, or this stuff kind of depresses me and I'm not going to discuss it. But whatever it is that your boundaries, make sure that you can follow through on it and still love them, right? You can still love them. So that is a really great thing too. And you could tell them, I want to talk about things with you that really bring us closer. When you go back to that first step and you look at your values, maybe your values are like love and family, community. Like, what is it that, is this coming from a place of like your own values? Can you tell them like, I'd like to talk about things that could really bring us closer together. There's some things that I'm going through now that I'm not ready to talk about. That could be. You could also just say, I'm taking a break from, just need some space. And then, if they decide that they do want to shun you, which could happen, you could tell them, listen, you can shun me and not talk to me, but I still love you. Just know that you're the one not talking to me. I still want to talk to you. I still love you. And you can still think about them in a loving way, even if they decide to shun you. So manipulation sounds like, if you do this, I'll do this, and I'm not going to love you anymore. That's manipulation. That's psychological abuse. And this is religious abuse. And that's what the Jehovah's Witnesses will most likely do if it gets to that point. I think that their shunning policies have changed a little bit, and they seem to be a little bit more, I want to say, relaxed a little bit. But now it's called removing somebody, right? Somebody is removed. It's still very strict, and there still is a lot of there's a lot of strictness around it, but I think it's a little bit less. But just remember, you can still look to the Bible and what the Bible says. And in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7, it talks about what love is. And so you can still love them. You can still love them even if they have a skewed version of that scripture. You can still decide that you do love them. And then just let them do what they're going to do, and then you're just going to do what you need to do for you and still love them. We were taught to be people pleasers, right? And so when we set up these boundaries, just kind of keep that in mind. These boundaries are set up not to please people. These boundaries are put in place to protect you. And so when we're people pleasing, just remind yourself that if you are doing that people pleasing thing that we all do as ex-witnesses or as witnesses, you're really lying to yourself, and you're actually lying to them too. When you're not really honest about what's going on inside of you, or what you need, like just setting your boundaries, being honest about your boundaries, then you're gonna end up lying to yourself and lying to people. And then you're going to be so frustrated with yourself and other people. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about boundaries. Okay, we're on to the bonus part. Okay, so now let's say that you've left the witnesses and you have faded away. Now what we're going to do is you have this whole new identity. Now you're an ex-witness, you're outside of the organization, you're not PMO anymore. You're physically out, mentally out, you're a POMO. So now what we're going to do is you're going to see that you have a new identity. You're going to have a new identity. You're going to make new connections. And this is sort of like, with those last 4 steps, it's like we kind of built our house. And with this bonus part, it's like now we put in the window and now we can kind of see out or see in, and we can build these new connections and our new identities. So, do you have any new passions? Do you have any new interests? Because we talked about groups and support and different ways that you could support yourself. Is there any values that you have now that have changed? Maybe they've changed a little bit. This is the thing, is we're going to keep on evolving as we go through the rest of our life. None of this is going to stay the same. We're never going to stay the same. We're going to keep on changing and reinventing ourselves and making these really cool discoveries about ourselves. And because of that, we might want to just look around and see, who do we have around us? Who do we need to add to our group of our core people in our life? Like, say the group that's like really the closest to us, is there anybody there that you need? And maybe the group that's kind of outside, like, is there anything that's missing from that? Is there any new interest that you want to pursue? So this would be the time to do that. Start adding even more support in there. And if you're really confused about what you want, I have a really great exercise for you. So in your journal that you've been keeping, I want you to put down a list of 50 wants, 50. Make a list 1 through 50 and go through, and you want to do this as quickly as possible because you want it to have really come off like the top of your mind, and to almost like just write like whatever comes to your mind and just do it so fast that you don't even really have time to think about it. So and then also the other part of this exercise is when you get to the 50, or I guess now, since I'm telling you beforehand, make sure that you also add in things that you already have, because this is what I want you to see, is there is a lot of possibility in what's going to happen in your future. So many things are going to happen. And it's really nice to get really clear on, like, what is it that you really want? And sometimes the things that we want are actually things that we already have. So don't forget to include those. So you might want to go every other. This is something I already have. This is something I want, because we can want the things that we already have, right? And then we can want new things too. So we want to go through there and put down our 50 wants. And this is going to be a list that you can look back on and you can reflect on over the years and see not only like how much do you already have, but really kind of clear of like the direction that you're going in. I love this exercise, and you have to push yourself through it, because 50 things, it's going to be kind of a lot. It could be it could be like material items. It could be your emotions. It could be like a career, or maybe schooling. That'd be cool. A relationship, like it could be a relationship with other people, relationship with yourself, which would be more of like personal growth, but all of those things. So 50 things, write down those. And so if you're wanting to get more support, this is a way to really see where are those missing pieces, and then you'll be more clear on what it is that you really, really want. So here's your second bonus. If you have your journal, here's another really great journal prompt. Because what we're going to do in this section is we're going to have even more healing resources. So if you do not have therapy or group therapy or coaching or group coaching, now's the time to really look into that and see what's out there and what you can do. So in these healing groups, like the one that I have on Facebook that's called I Just Want to Heal and Move On, you can always ask a question, hey, is there any coaches out here, therapists, things like that, and really find a person that is good for you. In the meantime, when you're looking for whatever spots that you need to fill in, and you have your journal, you can write this. I want you to remember what you didn't like about being a witness. You can write down all the things that you did not like. I didn't like that I never got to play sports. I didn't like that I didn't get to be part of a band in school. I didn't like that I never got to sing in choir concerts at school. Things like that. I didn't like that I was forced to marry somebody that I didn't really want to marry. Things like that. Make sure that you're writing down all of the things that you didn't like, maybe even a couple pages. You could write all the things you didn't like, because when you start to get to that point after you faded where you're like, oh, did I make a bad decision? Like maybe I should go back. You're going to want to have this as a reminder that you did not make a mistake, that there is so many things that you did not like about being a witness, and that you have definitely made the right choice. So don't forget to write those things down. And if you need help with filling in those spots of a therapist or a coach, you can always get into these Facebook groups online and look for a coach or a therapist that would fit with you and what you need. And inside of those ex Jehovah's Witness groups, there's a lot of help and a lot of resources. There's so many names. I couldn't even tell you all of the names on here, but there's a ton of help, I promise you. And then there's also books too. A few authors that I really like. I like the one by Johnny Halfhead. He has a few books, and he has one that's kind of a bigger book. And this book is so good for people that are waking up. Just look him up on Amazon and you can find his books. Also, Bonnie Zeman, she has books about leaving the witnesses, about being an ex Jehovah's Witness. And then Stephen Hassan, he is a, oh my goodness, what's the name of the group he was in? He was in a cult. And he has written a few books, and he has a YouTube channel as well, and he's really great. So there's a lot of books and resources out there, so definitely get more healing resources. Like, don't be satisfied with the things that you have already. That's great, but maybe just go a little bit deeper now that you're outside of the organization. So the last of the bonus tips that I have for you is just to remember that if you do get shunned, just remember to not take it personally, that shunning is totally their choice. This is something that we would have done it too, right? We shunned people when we were witnesses. So just remember to let people shun you if that's what they want to do. This is their choice, because what we don't want to do is shun them for shunning us, right? We want to keep our door open. I think maybe you do. If you don't, like, you can totally close the door and just be done with it. But just remember that shunning is their choice. It's not like we're the ones that are choosing this. This is totally what they want to do. And sometimes, it takes fading away. And so if they feel like they have to decide to shun you, then that's on them. That's a choice that they're making because of the rules that their religion tells them to do. So it's not your fault at all. It's the religion that is controlling all of this. So when you keep that door open for your family or friends, you're keeping the door open, but then also you're going first. Think about how many firsts that you've done in your life, okay? Maybe you were the first one that didn't stand up for the flag salute in your class. Maybe you were the first one to say no to a birthday cake at work. You've done a lot of things and gone first a lot. You are a trailblazer, and you are a leader. If you're an ex-witness, you've been put in these situations where you've had to do it. And so just know that you fading like this and you leaving, you have gone first. And there is a chance that they could walk through that door one day too. So don't think that that's not an option. It could be one day. You never know. So there's another thing to add to your journal, if you'd like, is is what I like to call your freedom list. So a list of I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, and you can write 10 of them and do them really, really quick, like you did on that last one, where it's like, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, and you can just fill it in and go real quick, and you can really start to learn, you can learn more about yourself. So this time that you get to spend on your own or with yourself, If you have been shunned, just remember this could be looked at as a really wonderful gift that has been given to you, an unexpected, unwelcome gift, but a gift all the same. That this is giving you so much time to really, really get to know yourself. And so, what is it that you wish? I wish, okay, here's what I wish. I kind of want to cut my hair short. I wish I could paint. I wish that I would go ride a bike. I wish I would roller skate. I wish that I would, things like that, where all these little things that maybe you haven't really thought about too much, but maybe it's something that you have really had on your mind and your heart to do for a long, long time. But until you just start writing it down, you won't realize it. And then when you look back at your list, it's like, oh, maybe I should do something like that. I wish I could ride in a hot air balloon. Things like that. It'd be really fun. So you can also do this as a voice memo to yourself too. Just remember, if you can't write a journal because you're afraid somebody might find it, you can do the one with the lock on it, or you can put a lock on your voice memos too. And as you're going through this process and you're trying to find your way through the pain and to the joy, just remember that we can stay in the state where we're just in misery, like we're just in this miserable state, and we can stay there for a long time if we don't move, or we could push ourselves through the pain, come out on the other side having joy. So it's sort of like, it's like the rip the band-aid off sort of thing. Do you want to have a long-term pain and misery, or do you want to just rip off the band-aid and just get on with it? So if you have, if you're thinking about leaving and you've watched this all the way to the end, that's what I would just say to you. There's no way to really get around the process that you're going to have to go through. Once you kind of go through the pain and you've faded and you're on the other side of it, then the clock starts ticking, right, on the other side. And then year by year, day by day, month by month, year by year, time will go by and the pain will be less. But until you go through it, that clock can't start to tick, because if you're over here, you're just still in that, miserable state. So either you can have it's going to be painful. It's going to maybe be the same amount of pain whether you're here or you go all the way through here. So the pain's going to be the same. So it's a long-term misery or a short pain, and then you get through it, right? Yeah, I'm happy that you're here to watch this video. There's so much support out there. 33 years ago, when I was disfellowshipped at 16 years old, I was lost, and I almost didn't make it through. I almost didn't make it. And so I would just say, just remember that there's a lot of help out there. And as you go through this, just remember you're getting closer to who you are supposed to be, who you're meant to be. An authentic person, somebody full of freedom, the person that God really wanted you to be, So as you move through, just remember that He is still there for you. Don't think that if you leave the witnesses that means that you can't be close to God. You can still pray to Him. He's still going to listen to you, and He's going to bring you answers. So if you leave Jehovah, remember that's leaving the organization. You can still have a relationship with God. I just want to say that at the end, because I think it's a really sad thing that the witnesses take away from you, take away God from you, and make you think that somehow you're unacceptable, unlovable, unforgivable. And that's just not true. It's not true at all. I feel like if you've had a relationship with God inside of the religion, you can have one with Him outside of the religion as well. That's super personal, very personal. That's between you and Him. you and him. And all of the other people that have all of their judgment about what you're doing, that's just for them. They get to judge as much as they want. That's just what people do. They're going to judge you no matter what anyways. But I just want to say that, if you're still at the end of this and you're feeling like still a little bit lost or confused, I would say, keep praying about it, because I believe that the answers are going to come to you. And if you ever need any help, I'm here for you too. I'll put a link below, and I have an option for a coffee chat. Like, we can meet up and just talk about whatever. If you want to experience coaching, we can do that too. It's up to you. I like to have that as a free resource to all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because I feel like it's something that we need for connection. The other day I had one of those calls, and I ended up recommending a book that I haven't recommended to very many people, but that was kind of cool. You never know what you're going to get out of a coffee chat. And then if you'd like to work with me as your coach, we can talk about that too. And no pressure. Like, I'm not here to pressure anybody, but I also feel like it's my responsibility to at least say something. The only thing I'm going to sell you on is yourself, but I'm not a pressuring person. I'm not going to pressure anybody, but I think it's so cool that there's so many ex-Jehovah's Witness life coaches, and, it really has changed my life, and I believe in it. And so, yeah, if you want to book a consultation, I'll leave that link below too, but no pressure. And if maybe this video was like help enough for y'all. And if it was, let me know. And also, if you get to the end of this and you have something you want to add that I didn't mention, because I don't claim to know everything, and you want to add your own tips or tricks or resources or anything, like, add it to the comments below. Are you a coach? Are you a therapist? Are you a leader of a group? Like, put your group below. And also, where are you from? Because that's another thing as ex-witnesses. Man, I wish there was like this humongous like database of where we're all at, and so we could meet up and things like that. But you are not alone. You're not alone. Everybody's here. But I think if we introduce ourselves and say where we're from, and don't be afraid to just say, hey, I really need a friend, I'm this age, or just get out there and like let us know. That's what's so wonderful about the internet, is that we can do that. Of course, you want to be discerning and use good judgment and things like that. But if you're looking for something, maybe this could be an answer to your prayer. Could be. So I'm happy that you're here. Thanks so much for watching and listening. This is going to be a long one. Yeah, but thank you for being here. All right. Bye, everyone.